You're watching MH Nation. Get the latest NBA news, transfer rumors, and match updates fast. Like, share, and subscribe to stay ahead of the game.
Imagine you wake up one morning, check your phone like you always do, and the first thing you see is a notification. It reads, Warriors sign new forward, battle for final roster spot heats up. And just like that, your morning is completely hijacked. You sit up in bed, eyes wide open, heart already racing, because you just know, that something big is brewing in the Bay Area. Something that could change the entire shape of the Golden State Warriors going into next season. And here's the thing. This isn't just about one player. This isn't just about one signing. No. This is about something so much bigger. This is about the future of a franchise that has defined an era of basketball. This is about the next step in the story of a team that refuses to go quietly into the night. This is about a roster spot, one single roster spot, that suddenly has more drama, more competition, and more storylines swirling around it than most teams' entire offseasons combined. So buckle up. Get comfortable. Because we are going deep today. We are going to take this whole thing apart, piece by piece, and by the time we are done, you are going to understand exactly what is happening in Golden State, and exactly why it matters. Let's go. First things first. Let's set the scene. Let's understand where the Warriors actually are right now, because context is everything. The 2025-26 NBA season is over. The Warriors, this proud, dynasty-built team, did not make the playoffs. They were eliminated in the play-in tournament, losing to the Phoenix Suns. Think about that for a second. The same organization that won 4 championships in 8 years, the same team that had the greatest shooter of all time running the show, knocked out before the playoffs even started. It hurts. It really hurts. And inside the Warriors organization, that pain is fuel. But here's where it gets complicated. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the Warriors aren't starting from scratch. They are not a rebuilding team. They still have Stephen Curry. Let that sink in. They still have the man that some people believe is the greatest basketball player of all time. They still have Draymond Green, one of the most impactful defensive players the sport has ever produced. They still have a coaching legend in Steve Kerr on the sideline. They still have Jimmy Butler, even though he is currently recovering from a torn ACL that he suffered back in January. And they still have Brandon Podziemski, Gue Santos, and a group of young players who are still growing, still developing, still figuring out who they are at the NBA level. So the Warriors are not dead. Not even close. But they are standing at a crossroads. And every single decision they make this offseason, every signing, every trade, every roster move, is going to matter enormously. And right at the center of this offseason story, a brand new forward. A 6'8" player with a fascinating backstory who just got quietly signed by the Golden State Warriors. A player that most casual fans haven't heard of yet. But trust me, by the time Summer League is over, everyone is going to know his name. That player is Lachlan Olbrich. Say that name out loud. Lachlan Olbrich. It sounds like a name from another world entirely, because in a sense, it is. Because Lachlan Olbrich's journey to the Golden State Warriors is one of the most unconventional, most remarkable paths you will hear in a long time. He is Australian. He grew up on the other side of the planet, playing basketball in a country where the sport is growing rapidly but where the NBA pipeline is still being built. He played 1 season of college basketball in the United States, at UC Riverside, not exactly one of the blue blood programs of college hoops. And then something interesting happened. Lachlan Olbrich went back. He went back overseas. He went to play in Australia's National Basketball League, one of the strongest leagues outside of the NBA. And then things really started to get interesting. Because before his NBL stint, Olbrich won the MVP award in the New Zealand National Basketball League. Let that settle. He didn't just play well. He was the best player in an entire league. Now, the NZNBL is not the NBA, that much is true. But becoming the most valuable player in any professional basketball league takes something. It takes skill, it takes will, it takes a mentality that not everyone possesses. Then Olbrich moved up. He joined the Illawarra Hawks in the NBL, and here's where you start to really pay attention, because the NBL is legitimately competitive. Past players who went through the NBL include guys like Ben Simmons, Dante Exum, and a host of players who made it to the highest level of basketball on the planet. So when Olbrich averaged 8.4 points per game while shooting nearly 60% from the floor for the Hawks, that was meaningful. That was a real data point that real NBA scouts took note of. And then the Chicago Bulls came calling. Let's talk about the Chicago Bulls chapter of this story, because it is short, but it is absolutely crucial to understanding why the Warriors just made this move. Olbrich signed with the Bulls on a two-way contract. For those who aren't familiar with how two-way contracts work, here's the quick version. A two-way contract allows a player to split time between an NBA team and their G League affiliate. They can appear in NBA games for a limited number of days. It's essentially a tryout at the highest level. It's the NBA saying, "We see something in you, but we need to see more." And for a player trying to break in from overseas, it is an incredible opportunity. And what did Lachlan Olbrich do with that opportunity? He made it count. He flashed the kind of versatility and athleticism that coaches dream about. But here is the moment, the single moment, that turned heads across the entire league. Late in the regular season, the Chicago Bulls were playing the Dallas Mavericks. And Lachlan Olbrich, the 6'8" forward from Australia who played in the New Zealand Basketball League not that long ago, went out and recorded a triple-double. Against the Dallas Mavericks. In the NBA, a triple-double. That means he hit double digits, or close to it, in 3 statistical categories in a single game. Points, rebounds, assists. And when a player on a two-way contract does that, when someone who is technically on the fringes of an NBA roster goes out and dominates like that, everyone notices. Teams notice. Coaches notice. Front offices around the league pick up the phone and start making calls. Now, the Bulls moved on. That's the harsh reality of professional basketball. The Bulls are in a difficult spot as an organization, trying to figure out their own direction, and they let Olbrich go. But sometimes, one team's loss is another team's gain. And in this case, the Golden State Warriors were right there, waiting. Here's the thing about the Warriors front office under general manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. They are smart. And when we say smart, we mean it in the specific way that matters in the NBA, which is, they find value where other teams miss it. They see potential that others overlook. They take calculated risks on players who might not be household names but who fit their system, their culture, their way of playing basketball. And Lachlan Olbrich fits that profile perfectly. Think about what the Warriors need right now. They need length. They need versatility. They need players who can do multiple things on the court, defend different positions, rebound from the wing, make plays, move the ball. Olbrich at 6'8" has the size to guard multiple positions. He's an athlete. He plays hard. He has shown, in real NBA minutes, that he can be impactful. And he comes with a chip on his shoulder the size of the Sydney Opera House, because he has been fighting his entire career to prove that he belongs. This is exactly the kind of player Steve Kerr's system can elevate. Because what Kerr does better than almost any coach in the league is take players who are smart, who are versatile, who are willing to sacrifice individual glory for team success, and he makes them into something special. We have seen it time and time again throughout the Warriors dynasty. Players come in, they buy into the system, they play within themselves, and they thrive. So the Warriors signed Olbrich for NBA Summer League. And right away, the conversation changed. Right away, the roster battle at the forward position became something entirely different. But wait. We need to pull back for a second, because understanding this signing means understanding the full landscape of what the Warriors are building this offseason. And it is a lot to take in. The draft just happened, and the Warriors made a big move. With the 11th overall pick, they selected Yaxel Lendeborg out of Michigan. This is a significant piece of information, because Lendeborg is not some raw project that will need years to develop. He is a super senior. He will be 24 years old when his first NBA season begins. He was part of a national championship team at Michigan. He is ready to play right now. Lendeborg is big, long, versatile. He can guard multiple positions, he can shoot, he can rebound, he can defend. He was the number 5 player on some major draft boards. And he almost wasn't a Warrior. There were reports that as soon as Braden Burries, a guard the Warriors had targeted, was taken one spot ahead at number 10 by the Milwaukee Bucks, the Warriors were fielding trade offers for the 11th pick. It apparently got so heated that cameras caught owner Joe Lacob and GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. in what looked like an argument in the draft war room. The drama was real. But the Warriors kept the pick. They took Lindeborg. And by all accounts, everyone inside the organization is genuinely excited about what he brings to the table. He reportedly got his locker assignment right next to Stephen Curry's. The rookie arrived, looked around, and suddenly realized, this is really happening. So now you have Lindeborg in the picture. And then you have Yaxel's battle for playing time in the starting lineup. Because the current projection has Gue Santos potentially starting at small forward after he averaged 15.4 points per game over the final 31 games of last season. Both Lindeborg and Santos are competing for that starting role. That is its own storyline. But the two-way contract situation, that is where things get really wild. That is where Lachlan Olbrich enters the frame, and the competition becomes something you absolutely need to follow. Let's break down the two-way contract battle in detail, because this is genuinely one of the most fascinating roster construction puzzles in the entire NBA right now. Every NBA team has exactly 3 two-way roster spots. Just 3. And the Warriors going into this offseason already had 2 players on two-way contracts, LJ Cryer and Malavi Leons. That means, technically, there is only 1 spot available. Now, here's what makes this complicated. Cryer was impressive during his Warriors stint. He is likely coming back on that two-way deal. And some people even think he could potentially be upgraded to a standard guaranteed contract. But that is not certain yet. Leons, on the other hand, did not impress as much. The Warriors can release him from his two-way deal without any penalty, and that is looking increasingly likely. So at minimum, you have 2 open or potentially open two-way spots. And look at the players competing for them. You have second-round pick Leji Jones, taken 54th overall, who figures to have an inside shot at one of those spots. You have Graham Ike, the Gonzaga big man who was signed to an Exhibit 10 contract after going undrafted. A player who led the West Coast Conference in scoring, averaging nearly 20 points a game, and who one draft analyst had ranked higher than Leji Jones in terms of overall talent. And you also have Nick Boyd, another player on an Exhibit 10 deal. And now you have Lachlan Olbrich coming in for Summer League. That is 5 players, minimum, competing for 2 or possibly 3 roster spots. The battle is real. The competition is fierce. And Summer League is essentially the gladiator arena where these battles get decided. For those who don't know, Exhibit 10 contracts are technically non-guaranteed deals. They include a small bonus, typically less than $100,000, designed to incentivize players to join the team's G League affiliate when they don't make the main roster. They're essentially a way for teams to fill out their rosters during the summer while evaluating talent. An Exhibit 10 contract can be converted to a two-way deal before the regular season starts. So for Graham Ike, for Nick Boyd, for everyone in that room, Summer League is everything. Let's zoom out now and look at the big picture. Because all of this, every single roster decision, every signing, every player evaluation, is happening within a very specific financial context that shapes what the Warriors can and cannot do. For the first time in years, the Golden State Warriors are going into an offseason without being deep in the luxury tax. And this actually matters enormously. The projected salary cap for the 2026-27 season is right around $165 million. The Warriors have the $15.1 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception available to use. But here's the catch. If they use the full mid-level exception to sign a free agent, it becomes very difficult to fill out the rest of the roster and still stay under the luxury tax threshold. So every dollar they spend has to be carefully considered. Let's talk about the major pieces they have locked in or are working on locking in. Al Horford, the 40-year-old center who joined the Warriors last season, is coming back. He turned down a $5.97 million player option to instead sign a new 2-year deal worth around $14 million, fully guaranteed. That tells you something right there. When a player turns down a guaranteed option to sign a longer deal, it means both sides want to be together. Horford was not at his best early in his Warriors tenure. He dealt with sciatica, a calf strain, various health issues, but he found his rhythm over the course of the season, and the Warriors believe in what he brings. Veteran leadership, size, shooting from the center position, and championship-level experience. Kristaps Porzingis is another major piece. He is an unrestricted free agent, but the word coming out of the Bay Area is that both sides are very interested in working out a short-term deal. And because of Porzingis' well-documented injury history, the Warriors are likely to be able to bring him back at a number that works for the team's financial picture. When he is healthy, Porzingis is a legitimate difference maker, a 7-foot player who can shoot, block shots, and change the game defensively. And then there is Draymond Green. The veteran forward has a player option he had to decide on by June 29th, which is literally today as we are talking about this. The expectation is that Green will be back, potentially on a restructured deal worth around $27.6 million on an expiring contract. And here's the thing about Draymond, his value to this team goes so far beyond statistics. He is the heartbeat of the Warriors' defensive system. He is the one who orchestrates the chaos, who makes everyone around him better, who has 4 championship rings and the kind of IQ for the game that cannot be taught. He's coming back, and the Warriors are better for it. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The player who is not mentioned enough in these roster discussions, but whose presence, or whose absence, changes everything about what the Warriors look like this coming season. Jimmy Butler III. Butler came to Golden State in a blockbuster deal that sent shockwaves through the league. The Warriors gave up Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield to get him, and for a while, it looked like the move might be exactly what the aging core needed. A proven star who could carry the team in the clutch moments when everything was on the line. And then, in January, the worst happened. Butler tore his right ACL. The entire Warriors season shifted on its axis in that moment. They tried to keep fighting, but losing a player of Butler's caliber mid-season is a wound that almost no team can overcome. And sure enough, the Warriors limped through the rest of the year and were eliminated in the play-in round. But here is the hopeful news. Butler himself has said he is about a month and a half away from running again. And that means his recovery is progressing. The expectation remains that he will not be ready to play at the start of the 2026-27 season, but the question is, how much time will he actually miss? A few weeks? A month? More? Because the moment Butler comes back healthy, the Warriors become a completely different team. They become a legitimate threat again. They have Curry. They have Green. They have Butler. They have Porzingis. That is a core that can compete with anyone in the Western Conference. That is a group that, in a 7-game playoff series, can make anyone uncomfortable. And even Warriors head coach Steve Kerr himself said something that stuck. But by the end of the year, if you have Steph Curry on your team, Steve Kerr is the coach and Jimmy Butler is back, in a 7-game playoff series, I don't want to say we can't beat anybody. That's not false confidence. That is the kind of calm certainty that comes from having won championships before. From knowing what it feels like when all the pieces click into place. From understanding that as long as Steph Curry is out there, you are never far from contention. But now let's circle back to the present moment. Because the season starts in the fall, and right now, this summer, the Warriors are grinding through the details. The small moves. The roster math. And every single one of those moves matters. Moses Moody, another young wing for the Warriors, is also out with a knee injury. So the Warriors are simultaneously dealing with injuries to 2 of their most important wing players, Butler and Moody, which means the forward depth on this team has never been more crucial. Which means every single player competing for those final roster spots needs to show up, show out, and prove that they deserve to be there. This is exactly why the Olbrich signing is so significant. He is not just a summer league body-filling space. He is a real candidate. He has NBA experience. He has produced at the NBA level. He comes from a winning background. And he is hungry. He is absolutely hungry, because the Bulls let him go, and he knows that this opportunity with the Warriors is the kind of chance that doesn't come around twice. Let me paint you a picture of what Summer League is actually like. Because it's easy to look at Summer League as just a casual, low-stakes basketball tournament. But for the players competing for roster spots, it could not be more serious. It is the most important series of games of their professional lives. Picture this. You are in Las Vegas. The desert heat is staggering outside, but inside the Cox Pavilion and the Thomas & Mack Center, the air conditioning is cranked, the gym smells like fresh rubber and sweat, and the bleachers are packed with scouts, agents, journalists, and fans wearing every team's jersey. There are cameras everywhere. Clipboards everywhere. Coaches watching every single play, every defensive rotation, every time a player doesn't run back after a made basket. And you are out there on the floor, playing against other hungry guys who want the same thing you want. And you know that every practice, every shoot-around, every in-game moment is being dissected, analyzed, compared against every other player in that gym. A player can go from the end of the bench to a two-way contract offer with one great performance. And a player can fade away and find themselves without a team if they do not show up when it matters. For Lachlan Olbrich, for Graham Ike, for Leji Jones, for Nate Williams, for LJ Cryer, every single one of them is in that moment right now. Every single one of them is in the pressure cooker. And the Warriors coaching staff is watching. The front office is watching. Mike Dunleavy Jr. is watching. Steve Kerr is watching. This is the crucible. And only the ones who can handle the heat will emerge with a spot on the roster. Let's talk for a moment about the broader context of what the Warriors are trying to build here. Because this offseason is not just about filling a two-way spot. It is about setting the foundation for the next 2 or 3 years of this franchise. Stephen Curry is 38 years old. And before you panic at that number, understand this. Curry is not a typical 38-year-old athlete. He is one of the most uniquely gifted basketball players in history. His game is not based on athleticism. It is based on skill, footwork, shooting mechanics, and a basketball IQ that is simply off the charts. Players like this age differently. They play longer, they produce at a high level for longer, and they remain franchise cornerstones when most other players have retired years earlier. But the clock is ticking. And Mike Dunleavy Jr. knows it. Everyone inside the Warriors organization knows it. And that is why the decisions being made right now carry such enormous weight. Because you do not have unlimited Curry years left. You have to make them count. The drafting of Axel Lendeborg at 11 is part of that plan. He is a ready-now player who can contribute immediately, and he is also young enough to be part of whatever comes after Curry. He is a long-term piece and a short-term piece simultaneously, which makes him incredibly valuable. The Warriors GM Dunleavy said publicly that Lendeborg's age, 24, is not a concern. He's not 38. And that was both a confident statement about Lendeborg's potential and a subtle acknowledgement of the reality facing this team. The plan seems to be, maximize the Curry window while simultaneously building the next chapter. It is an incredibly difficult tightrope to walk. But the Warriors have walked difficult tightropes before. And they have fallen off. And they have gotten back up. And they have walked it again. Now let's talk about something that has been humming in the background this entire offseason. The LeBron James question. Earlier this summer, there were genuine reports that the Warriors had interest in signing LeBron James. Think about what that would mean. Stephen Curry and LeBron James, the two greatest players of their generation, on the same team. It would be the most dramatic basketball story since anything. Since Kevin Durant joined the Warriors in 2016. Maybe bigger, actually. But the financial math made it nearly impossible. Even if James were willing to take roughly half his current salary, something in the range of $25 to $26 million, the Warriors still could not fill out the rest of the roster within their financial constraints. Butler's $56 million salary would almost certainly need to go somewhere. Green and others would need to make adjustments. The puzzle just doesn't fit cleanly. There have also been reports that Curry himself planned to sit down with LeBron personally to make a sales pitch before free agency began. Think about that. The greatest shooter of all time calling up the greatest all-around player of his era and saying, "Come play with me. Come let us do something no one has ever done before. Come join the Warriors." Whether that conversation happened and what it led to, that is still unfolding as of right now. The moratorium on free agent negotiations with players not on your own team began on June 30th. The official free agent signing period opens on July 6th. So we are right on the edge of that moment. We are right on the precipice of learning exactly what Golden State's roster is going to look like. And hovering over all of it is the possibility, however remote it may be, that LeBron James might end up in a Warriors uniform. If that happens, everything we have discussed today becomes even more complicated, even more fascinating, even more dramatic. But let's come back down to earth for a moment. Because amidst all the big picture questions, LeBron or no LeBron, Porzingis or no Porzingis, Draymond staying or restructuring, there is still this very real, very grounded battle happening at the bottom of the roster. Lachlan Olbrich versus Graham Ike versus Leji Jones versus Nate Williams versus Malavi Leons versus possibly others yet to be added. These are real human beings. Real athletes. Real dreamers who have fought their entire lives to get here. And this summer, One or two of them are going to get that phone call, the one that changes your life. The one where someone on the other end says, "You made it. You're on the team. You're a Golden State Warrior." And the others will have to deal with the other kind of phone call. The one where they say, "We really liked what you showed us, but we just didn't have the spot." And those players will have to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and figure out their next move. Maybe another Summer League team. Maybe another G League assignment. Maybe another stint overseas. The grind never stops for players on the bubble. This is what Summer League truly is. It is not a meaningless exhibition. It is the most real thing these players do all year. It is the place where careers are born and careers end. And this summer, the Golden State Warriors Summer League roster is one of the most interesting collections of talent and ambition in the entire league. Let's take a deep breath and zoom all the way out now. Let's look at this from 10,000 feet and try to understand what the Warriors need to become in order to be truly competitive next season. Their recent track record tells a story. Losses to Chicago, to Minnesota, to the Knicks, to Boston, to Detroit, to Atlanta, to Denver, to San Antonio, these were not flukes. This is a team that struggled consistently, that won some games but could not sustain the kind of dominance that we associate with the Warriors brand. They beat Brooklyn. They beat Washington. They beat Dallas. But the pattern was inconsistency. And inconsistency at the highest level is a warning sign. What they need is defensive toughness. They need players who can guard multiple positions, who won't get hunted defensively, who bring energy and physicality night after night. They need length on the wings. They need bodies who can match up against the athletic small forwards and powerful wings that dominate the modern NBA. They also need shooting depth. The departure of Buddy Hield, who was traded along with Kuminga in the Butler deal, left a significant hole in their spacing. Hield was one of the best shooters in the league, and replacing that gravity on the floor is not easy. The Warriors have been reported to be pursuing Anthony Simons or Colin Sexton with a mid-level exception, and either of those players would provide some backcourt punch and floor spacing. But even beyond the stars and the rotational pieces, depth is crucial. Injuries happen. Fatigue happens. The 82-game regular season is a marathon, and the teams that go deepest in the playoffs are almost always the ones with the most depth. So every roster spot matters. Every two-way contract matters. Every summer league signing matters. Let's talk about some of the other names swirling around the Warriors this offseason, because the roster picture is still very much in flux. Gary Payton II, the fan favorite and defensive spark plug who has been in and out of the Warriors' orbit over the years, is a free agent. His love for the Warriors is genuine. He has said it publicly, and Coach Kerr feels the same way about him. The question is whether the roster has space for him. He would almost certainly come on a veteran minimum contract, which is manageable. But roster spots are finite, and the Warriors have a lot of mouths to feed this summer. Quinton Post is another name to watch. The young center impressed the Warriors during his time with the team, and with Horford and Porzingis both aging and dealing with health concerns, having a developmental big man on the roster makes a lot of sense. He could be the player who gets major minutes if either of the starters goes down. Charles Bassey had a brief but impressive stint with the Warriors late in the season. There is some chance he returns on a minimum deal as well, adding another athletic big to the mix. And then there is the Kawhi Leonard question. Yes, that Kawhi Leonard. The reports suggest the Warriors, along with the Timberwolves and Pistons, have inquired about Leonard from the Clippers. But the Clippers, according to reports, are not trying to trade him. Those talks did not go anywhere. So Leonard, at least for now, appears to be staying in Los Angeles. But in the NBA, nothing is ever truly closed until it is official. Here is what I want you to really feel right now as we sit here in late June 2026. The Golden State Warriors are alive. They are not done. They are not fading. They are building, scrapping, hustling, trying to find the right pieces to put around their aging legend so that when the season begins and the lights come on and the crowd roars to life in the Chase Center, they are ready. Steph Curry is lacing up his sneakers right now, somewhere, getting shots up. You know he is. Because that is what he does. That is who he is. He is not sitting at home feeling sorry about the play-in loss. He is in the gym at 6 in the morning, working on his offhand, working on his footwork around the three-point line, preparing for a season that he intends to make count. And somewhere in that same competitive universe, Lachlan Olbrich is also in the gym. getting ready for Summer League, knowing that this is his moment, knowing that he spent years in New Zealand, then Australia, then Chicago, fighting for this chance. And now he is about to put on a Golden State Warriors jersey for the first time. And Axel Lendeborg is sitting next to Steph Curry's locker, probably still pinching himself, wondering how all of this happened. A Michigan kid who just won a national championship, now drafted by one of the most storied franchises in professional basketball. And Jimmy Butler is in the training room, doing his rehab, counting down the days. Because nothing motivates Jimmy Butler more than having something to prove. And right now, he has plenty to prove. Let's talk about what success looks like for the Golden State Warriors in the 2026-27 season. Because this is the question that everything else is building toward. With Butler healthy, with Curry performing at his usual spectacular level, with Green anchoring the defense, with Porzingis spacing the floor and protecting the rim, with Lendeborg adding immediate versatility from that lottery pick, with Podziemski continuing to develop as a secondary playmaker, this team, on paper, can compete for the playoffs. Not just the play-in. The actual playoffs. The real thing. And if they get into the playoffs healthy, if all those pieces are clicking, then the sky is truly the limit, because this is a group that has championship DNA. These are players who have been in the fire before, who know what it takes, who understand that the regular season is just the opening act and the playoffs are where it all truly matters. The Western Conference is brutal. You have Oklahoma City. You have San Antonio, who just came through a remarkable playoff run. You have the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets. The competition is real and it is fierce. But the Warriors have something that most of those teams do not have, which is the belief, the deep, unshakable belief, that they have been here before, that they know how to do this, and that as long as Steph Curry is on the floor, anything is possible. Now, one last thing before we wrap all of this up. One thing that ties every piece of this story together. This entire Warriors offseason, from the Lendeborg draft pick, to the Horford extension, to the Olbrich signing, to the Butler rehab, to the free agent chase, to the Summer League battles happening right now, all of it is connected by one single thread. And that thread is time. The Warriors do not have unlimited time. Stephen Curry is not going to play forever. The window that they have with this core of players, Curry, Green, Butler, Porzingis when healthy, is not infinite. It is real and it is closing, slowly but surely, like a door swinging shut at the end of a long night. And everyone inside that organization knows it. They feel it every single day. They feel the urgency. They feel the weight of what this moment means. Because this might be one of the last few chapters of this Warriors dynasty story. And they want it to end the right way. They want to chase another championship. They want to give Curry one more shot at the thing that defines all of it. Every player who shows up to Summer League this week is a part of that chase. Lachlan Olbrich is a part of that chase. Graham Ike is a part of that chase. Leji Jones, Axel Lendeborg, Gue Santos, every single person in that Warriors Summer League locker room is a part of something much bigger than themselves. And at the top of that pyramid, at the center of all of it, is the same man who has always been at the center of Golden State's story. Stephen Curry. Still shooting. Still grinding. Still chasing greatness. The offseason is happening right now. The roster battles are being waged as we speak. The final spots are up for grabs. And the Golden State Warriors are doing exactly what they have always done in this era. Competing, calculating, and refusing to quit. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning of the next chapter. And honestly, we cannot wait to see how it unfolds.